Council.
Yeah, Jim, the negotiation part of this, when you have to talk money with high school kid or a portal kid, doesn't matter. How different is that gonna be from any experience that people have had in the NFL negotiations?
Well, I think anytime you bring a family dynamic in, it's probably more sensitive, right? Like, I can't think of too many examples in the NFL that have been like that. Lamar Jackson comes to mind. I remember flying to the combine that year, and Lamar and his mom were sitting behind me, and it was just you never see a player traveling with their family to the combine. But yeah, it's certainly. I mean, because I can use myself as an example. I had a son that played high school football, and I had dad goggles for sure. He was. I mean, I thought he was a good player. I loved watching him play. But did I think he was probably a little better than he was? Probably. So dealing with families, you're just going to be a little more sensitive. There's no doubt about it. There's going to be a challenge there. But I think what I've learned over the last 7 years, just dealing with the agent community, if you're just straightforward with people and you're straight up, I mean that's the best policy. They're not always going to love what you want to hear, but if you're coming from a place of, I'll say this to cut myself off. Like I think the agents didn't always agree with me when they were calling me about their players, trying to get them in the Senior Bowl and things of that nature. But I think they always appreciated that I put in the work. They didn't always agree, but I think they respected it. And the same thing's going to apply here. Like we're gonna be really open. And this goes back to my time in the NFL. I worked with a former NFL player, a great former NFL player. One of the teams I was with, they brought scouts in to help cut players for a cut down. And it was the first time ever doing it. And I asked him his advice on it as a guy that played in the league at a high level. And he was like, man, you just can't BS players. He's like, just tell them why we're cutting them, exactly why we're cutting them. They need to know that. They deserve to know that. So these are just going to be really transparent, truthful conversations. And it's always going to be, it's for us, if they're in this building, it's always going to come from a place of care. If they're in this building, we're going to try to get them to wherever they want to get to. And I think most of these guys coming into this building would want to play in the NFL someday. I think that would be a goal for most of these guys. It should be if you're an SEC level recruit. But who knows, along their path, maybe that changes. But we'll always be truthful with our players and with the families as well. I'm certainly going to be sensitive to that because they're not used to negotiating either, right? I mean, there's going to be emotion involved because that's not something most family members have ever done is negotiate a contract on behalf of a loved one. I mean, just saying it out loud. I mean, I think everyone in the room can feel like, yeah, that's probably going to be pretty difficult, pretty awkward. But I think if people know that you're coming from a good place and you care about them, I think that's the best place to come from.
Okay. Last one, far right, Ryan Chapman, SI Seniors.
When you look at the pro model of talent acquisition, draft free agency versus recruiting, transfer portal, what aspects do you think are going to be the easiest, like for like, being able to lift these processes and have streamline versus what's going to take the most tweaking to adjust at how college football rosters get populated?
Could you rephrase it?
Yeah, like
what's the easiest? I'm not.
Yeah, your processes of draft, free agency, being able to put an NFL roster. What's going to be the most similar to just translating that to going after guys in the portal or evaluating recruits versus what's going to take the most tweaking to move off the NFL to adjust to how you have to work in college football?
Sure. No, I mean, I think the easiest thing will be the portal because it's apples to apples, right? Not in every case. I mean, if you're evaluating a FCS level player, Division II player, it's not SEC, but it's still college to college. So I think anytime you're evaluating a college player compared to a high school player, there's less projection. So to me, that's easier. Is that answering?
Yeah.
Is that answering it? Yeah. I mean, and that's why we're going to attack the portal. I mean, there's good players, and there's a lot of examples. There's a handful of schools out there the last couple of years that have done great work in the portal. And people have asked me, like, what's that breakdown going to be? I can't answer that because it's just like that every draft has different strengths and there's certain draft, like this is a pretty strong draft. It's not great, up top in the draft, but there's some really good depth this year's draft just because the extra COVID year and everything. So this is a deep draft. There's going to be, every year in the portal is going to be different, in my opinion. So we got to get in there and we're going to have the players evaluated. We're not going to react. We're not going to be reactionary. We're going to, there's certainly going to be players that take us off guard, and that's going to happen. But we're going to try to get that thing scouted as best we possibly can, so we're not reactive. So we got our ducks in a row, and these guys jump in, and we can jump on them. But again, it's gonna be different. So so someone asked me, recently, like, what, break it down, like, what's the percentage? I can't say that because I think every year is gonna be different.